Welcome to the world of shiny Pokemon. My name is Alex, and I'm one of the many who have made finding different colored pixels a personal passion. A passion for which the ultimate trophy is a full collection of shiny Pokemon, also known as a shiny living dex. But I'm throwing a twist into how I'm getting mine. This is how I let the Pokemon trading card game decide how I build my shiny living dex.
Before we get started, I wanted to lay out some ground rules that will help guide us along this journey. Rule number 1. There are a handful of Pokemon that have either never been shiny, like Victini, or their shiny's just not frequently available, like Meltan. If I were to pull one of those cards, we'll just set it aside for a later date. Rule number 2. I'll be using any shiny hunting method available to me. Now, this can range from things like a simple sandwich in Scarlet and Violet to PokeRadar in BDSP or Diamond Pearl Platinum, or wormholes in Ultra Sun and Moon, or even arbitrary code execution. To me, the only wrong way to get a shiny is to just hack it in. All other methods require some degree of luck or skill, and I think they should all be celebrated. And rule number 3, if I pull duplicate cards, I'm not hunting duplicate Pokemon. It's all fun and games until I pull 2 Jirachi and 3 Deoxys out of a single opening, and then I'm stuck in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald for all eternity. Now, with all that covered, let's get into the packs. Helioptile, Corphish, Grookey, Finizen, Jamming Tower, Glaceon, Sandslash, Thwackey, Lairon, Palafin, Meltan, Scorbunny, Lediba, Mienfoo, Toadscruel, Kofu, Mienshao, Diplin, Lapras, Metacham, Glimmet, Thwackey, Heliolisk, Ducklet, Handheld Fan, Morpeko, Conkeldurr, Legacy Energy, Corphish, Monkey Dory. We're starting out in what are by far the easiest games to find shinies in, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, these games get a lot of valid criticism for some of the performance issues they have, as evident here. But no one can deny how shiny hunting was benefited by these games, not only in being able to see the shinies in the overworld, but also the means in which you can get them with the shiny sandwiches. And that's what we're doing here for Toadscruel and a shiny ground encounter sandwich. It? Oh, that's it. Wait, no. Oh, no. Please. Still there. Oh, no. Come on, no. I thought he'd turn around. He didn't. Enough. After evolving Toadscruel into Toadscruel, we now have our first shiny of the video. Only 1,024 more to go. For Sandslash, we're going to jump back a couple of games to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. While the Let's Go games are a bit of a departure from the traditional Pokemon game, the art style is undeniable. Pokemon, but especially their shinies, just look incredible in these games. But the shiny hunting in these games is, let's say, unique. There was a ton of confusion at how exactly the system worked with shiny hunting. But as one of my favorite YouTube creators, Johnson, puts it,
basically what you have to do is catch Pokemon.
However, it is a little more nuanced than that. Once you get to a catching chain of 11, the odds of the next Pokemon that spawns being that same Pokemon increases to 50%. And then once you get to a catching chain of 31, your shiny odds are maxed out, going from the base of 1 in 4096 to about 1 in 341 without any other boosts. Factoring in the shiny charm and having a lure active will increase your odds to about 1 in 271. The catch, you get it, because we're catching Pokemon, and the catch is that the increased shiny odds only apply to the next Pokemon that spawns, and only if it's the same Pokemon that you've been chaining. So while on the surface the shiny odds appear very lucrative with this method, the reality is more of a mixed bag, as you're never guaranteed the next spawn being what you're looking for. This Sandslash appeared after only a chain of 168 and took no time at all. Oh! Let's go! Alright. It looks so good! I took it to Cerulean Cave to level it up and evolve. And then the Sandslash shiny is underwhelming, to say the least. We're back in Pokemon Violet as we need to grab 2 Finizen. Unlike Toadscruel and just riding around with a shiny sandwich in our bellies, I got lucky and had a Finizen outbreak just outside of Levincia. Now, in case you weren't somehow aware after these games being out for over 2 years now, knocking out Pokemon in an outbreak improves your shiny odds. Defeating 30 outbreak Pokemon gives you 1 additional shiny trick, or 1 in 2048 odds, and defeating 60 outbreak Pokemon gives you 2 additional shiny rolls, or about 1 in 1365 odds. Add in the shiny charm and you're looking at odds of about 1 in 819 just for knocking out 60 Pokemon. But I didn't even need to get to 60 KOs. Purple guy, purple guy, purple guy. Alright, this one. What is particularly helpful about this location is that if you scoot by the city, it will change your area and despawn all of the nearby Pokemon. This provides an extremely fast way of resetting the spawns on the water, whereas otherwise you would have to drive way out into the ocean and then come all the way back, and it's a little bit time consuming. But this can also work against you if you're not paying attention. You might see a shiny as you're heading into the despawn zone and then it's gone. But not me though, I would never let that happen. Number 2! It was so fast. I gotta be very careful. It's in the... to hit it from... I don't want it to despawn. Okay, that's good. That would have been really bad. It was so fast. See? I told you. Scarlet and Violet introduced a few, how should we say, unique evolution methods. Finizen can only evolve into Palafin if it's leveled up while in a Union Circle, which is basically these games' version of co-op. Now, I could have gone online to find a helpful soul to help me knock this out, but I had other plans. Now this is my wife's Switch Lite that I got for her for Christmas about 4 years ago. It's mostly mine to play around with when I need another console to trade. Hi. What's going on here? There we go. Okay. Oops. Sticking with Violet, we're going to try and get our hands on a pair of Gen 8 starter Pokemon, Grookey and Thwackey. The Gen 8 starters are quite limited in how they can be obtained as shinies. You're basically left with either the Masuda method or just prowling around the terrarium in Scarlet and Violet's Indigo Disc DLC. Now, if there's one thing you should know about me, I hate the Masuda method. I find it incredibly boring, often time consuming, and it's just not very fun for me. You constantly have to be hatching and then cycling out eggs, just riding around and around and around until something hatches. But guess what? It's not shiny, so you have to keep doing that over and over and over and over and over.
Whoa. Let's pause this guy. He needs to cool off.
So yeah, anyways, I just made a shiny grass sandwich, and we're just going to ride around this area of the coastal biome, as it basically only spawns Grookey. And her. This is what we call a phase, which is an acronym that stands for player has a shiny encounter, or please help, Alex seems exasperated. It basically just means you encounter a shiny Pokemon that isn't the one you're searching for. As far as phasing goes, Scarlet and Violet are some of the more forgiving games to have it happen in, as it doesn't take long to find another shiny. And if phasing really affects this video series, I'd really prefer it to be in these. At least it's a good shiny and easy to see. But like I said, your next shiny is probably right around the corner. All 4 of these were found on the same sandwich, by the way, which isn't super crazy given the odds in Scarlet and Violet, but it is up there with the most I've ever gotten on a single sandwich. I'll just give one Grookey a little XP bump, and now we have our Thwackey and can move on.
Meanwhile, in Kitakami.
I had moved over to the crystal pools of Kitakami for our next hunt when suddenly... Now you may be asking yourself, what is this? This, my friends, is a shiny Terra Pokemon. You see, throughout all of the Scarlet and Violet games, there are static Terra Pokemon that are usually stronger than the general Pokemon surrounding it. You can battle and catch these Terra Pokemon just like any other Pokemon. Curiously though, they are completely unaffected by any increase in your shiny odds. So this shiny Terra Glamora I just found is not only a really fun coincidence since I'm hunting its pre-evolution, but it's also a full odd shiny. As far as phases go, this one is pretty neat. Getting back on track, we're here for Glimmet. I managed to get myself an outbreak here at the Crystal Pools, and I'm also going to add on a poison shiny encounter sandwich to really maximize my odds. I found a nice little spot here to open and close picnics. This is the main method for resetting your spawns while on land. Despite my efforts at making this a quick hunt, the game had something else in mind. I sat in this corner for nearly an hour until shiny Glimmet finally showed up. We're finally getting out of the Gen 9 games again, and this time we're going to Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon to try our hand at some shiny wormhole hunts. For this round of cards, we have 2 Pokemon we can look for in the wormholes. Metacham in the yellow wormholes, and Heliolisk in the green wormholes. The way shiny odds work for the wormholes is based both on the distance you travel and what kind of wormhole you enter. Now, not to completely copy ADEF and stand in front of a green screen talking about math in a Pokemon game, But
Shiny odds are determined by these formulas. Now, they're all a little bit different, but generally speaking, you'll reach the maximum shiny odds after you travel a distance of 5,000 light years. That distance is represented by the letter N in these formulas. There is also the force multiplier in these, which is represented by 2 to the power of X divided by 4, where X is the wormhole type you enter. Then for the type 4 wormholes, you'll take that leading 1 away, but otherwise, these formulas scale.
unfortunately, there's no surefire way to track your distance in the wormholes. My general rule of thumb has been, assuming you don't hit the blue orbs that slow you down, you'll reach the distance between 2 and 2.5 minutes of travel. Now let's take a look at the shiny odds for each type of wormhole. The shiny odds for a type 1 wormhole will always be 1%, but the others will max out at 10% for a type 2, 19% for a type 3, and 36% for a type 4. But that's not the only complication. Additionally, all of the wormholes you enter have a chance of becoming legendary Pokemon, and that chance will also increase the further you go. And on top of all of that mess, each wormhole color has 5 different non-legendary Pokemon can be, so you have a 20% chance of finding the Pokemon that you want, which is not high. But while there are a lot of complications involved with this hunt, it can be pretty fruitful. So surely I won't have bad luck and phase a bunch of times. I phased 20 times in the wormholes. I went back and did the math. Discounting for the shiny Lombre and the shiny Yon Mega I found, because those were in wormholes I shouldn't have been entering anyways, this had a less than 2% chance of happening. 2%. Anyways, here's the 21st encounter. Yes! Oh my god! Oh my god! Finally! We gotta find another. Oh, but I got one of them. Back in the Let's Go universe, we're taking on a more difficult hunt with Lapras. Now in these games, Lapras is what's known as a special spawn. Without a catch combo, special spawns only have a 0.5% chance of appearing. Once you get a combo of 2, that rate goes up to 0.75%. After a combo of 6, it goes up to 1%. And then finally at a combo of 11, it catches back up to normal odds at 50%. The best approach for this is to go get a combo of 11 with a common Pokemon and catch one of the special spawns, and then wait, and wait, and wait until you can catch 10 more. And then once at a combo of 11, the spawns become a lot more frequent and you can get your chain going a lot faster. And of course, this method is not without phasing as well. You must also be really vigilant with these encounters because they can run away. And if they run away, that breaks your chain. But to be honest, most Pokemon in this game have a fairly obvious tell for when they're about to flee, and you really have to not be paying attention for it. Thankfully, this was only at a chain of 48, but it was a pain to build it back up again. The next time around, I managed to get a chain of over 400, mainly by only throwing 1 or 2 balls and then just fleeing. I didn't want to take the risk of that chain breaking. And then while I was visiting my parents for Christmas, this happened. Ignore the hair, I'm at my parents' house. But that is a shiny Lapras. I believe its chain is 404. We'll see if I get it. After a healthy break, I decided to make my way back to the Ultra Wormholes. My hunt for Medicham really hardened me, and I came back to this game more resilient than ever. I knew I had to hunker down and prepare to take a few on the chin in my search for shiny Heliolisk. Nothing, not even 20 phases, was going to beat me down. Yes! 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 Me! I am! Let's go! Well, that was nice. We're gonna go for Glaceon next, and to get it, we're gonna use a new method for the video, Pokeradar chaining. Now, obviously, Glaceon doesn't appear in the wild for any of the games you can do Pokeradar chaining in, so we're going to go catch an Eevee and then evolve it. I had been tracking the Trophy Garden Pokemon in my copy of Brilliant Diamond, and Eevee came around pretty quickly, so I decided to try for it in this game. Now, in the Gen 4 games, it was a lot easier to reach a chain of 40, at which point you would maximize your shiny odds. Assuming you catch the Pokemon, you have a 98% chance of the next Pokemon you encounter, assuming it's at least 4 tiles away from you, being that same Pokemon. So if you take that 98% chance of continuing your chain and expand it out to 40 encounters, that comes out to about 44.54% chance of reaching a chain of 40, and that only applies in Diamond, Pearl, Plat. This is basically a coin flip, but in BDSP, that 98% chance of continuing your chain drops to 93%. Now 93% still sounds high, but when you apply that to 40 encounters, you have just a 5.48 chance of reaching a chain of 40 in BDSP. Now there are some trade-offs like being able to use the edge tiles and the base shiny odds being double what they were in Gen 4. But you're basically at a 1 in 20 chance of getting to 40. As a result, people tend to chain at a lower number just because it's easier to reach and doesn't take as much time. But not me. I was determined. Well, 14 wasn't too far, but it still sucks. Did forget to mention that the exclusive Trophy Garden Pokemon only has a 5% chance of appearing. Yeah, 5%. So starting a new chain can take a minute, but once you get one going, they start to go pretty quick. And before you know it, you're back where you were when your last chain broke. Unreal. I was starting to lose my patience with this, but I got another chain going and actually got past 14 this time, only for it to break a little bit later at 21. Now at this point, I had gotten a little fed up with my chain breaking, so I whipped out my copy of Pokemon Diamond so I can have an easier time of reaching a chain of 40. I did a little bit of date skipping shenanigans to get Eevee to be the Trophy Garden Pokemon, and off I went. Filled with a renewed vitality, being in a game that is easier to chain in, and you have to be kidding me. I took a breather and came back to this later. I decided to try and chain while away from my computer, and maybe that was the trick, as I did finally manage to reach a 40 chain. I closed my 3DS for the evening and decided to come back the next day so I could record my momentous triumph on my recording software. And then tragedy struck. My gigantic finger must have slipped. I was distraught. I had lost all motivation for getting this stupid gray fox cat thing. I am devastated. Truly, utterly devastated. I don't know how life can go on. But I recovered and came up with a pretty ingenious way of hunting this shiny. I booted up my copy of Pokemon Legends Arceus so that I could look for Eevee mass outbreaks while also chaining Eevee in Pokemon Diamond. This did not work out well for me. Not only did I not find an Eevee mass outbreak the entire time I attempted this, but I also failed 3 chains of at least 17. And then, as luck would have it, I found a shiny Eevee while I wasn't recording. I threw an Ice Stone at it, and we finally have this incredibly underwhelming shiny Glaceon. Boring. In an attempt to save my sanity, I went back to Violet. I found myself a Morpeko outbreak and got to work. And shortly after knocking out 60 of them, it showed up. Then I went to search for an Applin outbreak. Now these are some of the rarest outbreaks in the game, so to speed it up, I made a Dragon Encounter level 2 sandwich while I reset for outbreaks. For those unaware, an encounter power sandwich can actually influence the mass outbreaks that you see. It's not a perfect calculus, but it does help activate the neurons in my little gamer brain. After quite a long while, I finally got the Granny Smith apple to pop up. Then we go back to Kitakami and the Mossfell Confluence to get a syrupy apple, feed it to our Applin, and voila, we have a shiny Dipplin. Back in Ultra Sun, we're taking on a new method of shiny hunting for Ladybug, SOS chaining. The method is exactly how it sounds. You get into battle with a Pokemon, you weaken, but not kill it, throw out an Adrenaline Orb, and then wait for it to call for help. If something shows up, you knock that out, and repeat ad nauseum until a shiny appears. A great setup for this is having a combination of the moves Trick and Skill Swap, a Lepiberry, and a Pokemon with the Harvest ability. Here are the Pokemon that can learn Trick, here are the Pokemon that can learn Skill Swap and have the Harvest ability, here are the Pokemon that can do all 3.
They're the same picture.
Once you have knocked out 31 of those SOS Pokemon, you are at the maximum shiny odds, which is about 1 in 273 with the shiny charm. Something important to note is that each wild Pokemon has a call rate assigned to it, ranging from 0 to 15. The higher the number, the better chances the Pokemon will successfully call for help. Ladybug sits at a call rate of 9, which is decent. Oh! Isn't that nice? Okay. Let's choose a Pokeball. It's level 2. It is time for yet another new method, one that will take us to Gen 6 and Pokemon X, looking for a shiny Corphish, chain fishing. And it really is quite simple. You just fish, constantly, without fail, until a shiny appears. Failing to reel in a catch, leaving the area, turning off your game, and funny enough, finding a shiny are the only ways your chain are going to break. My advice is to base when you reel in your catch on the sound that happens, rather than staring at a screen. Your shiny odds max out after you chain 20 successful reels in a row, and you can just run away from the encounter. You don't have to defeat or catch it. On my first attempt, I got all the way to a chain of 41 when... Well, 41 is not very far, and this method takes really no time at all, so it really wasn't that disheartening. I started up a second chain, but was just a hair too slow on reel 16, and lost the chain. My third chain got to max odds with ease and extended past my previous long all the way to 60 when I got bamboozled again. At this point, I felt something was off, so I decided to look something up. Turns out, Goldeen dominates the good rod encounters on Route 3 in Pokemon X. I took a look at the encounter tables, and lo and behold, I found that Corphish has a 100% encounter rate with a Super Rod on Route 102 in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So that's what I did. This time, the only way I could lose would be my fault, so surely that won't happen, right? All right. That didn't take too long at all. Ooh, okay, cool. Correct. I am too good to fail. For Lairon, we're breaking out a dual hunt setup again. This time I'm trying to reach an Aeron Pokeradar chain of 40 and BDSP, while simultaneously using Sweet Scent for Aeron Horde encounters in the Granite Cave and Alpha Sapphire. While Horde encounters don't increase your shiny odds, you'll reach odds at a much faster rate. So instead of just one encounter at a time at Shiny Charm odds, you get 5 at a time. It isn't the best method, but it's a decent way to passively look for encounters while I'm trying to chain in BDSP. After some luck, I managed to string together a chain of 40 in Brilliant Diamond. And right before I started recording again, the sweet grace of fortune showered me with luck. I took a grand total of 2 Pokeradar resets after hitting the 40 chain before it showed up. Two resets after hitting 40. But the game wasn't done with me. I just did it for fun. Got another shiny. Like two or 3 resets later. But after continuously bullying this ace trainer with a Chansey, we got our Lairon. While I found Heliolisk pretty quickly in the wormholes, I was in for a much rougher ride with its pre-evolution Helioptile. There's no quick way to get this one, so I decided to dual hunt this one as well. Haters will say it's fake, but I have a Sword and Shield Masuda hunt as one of the options. Listen, I know I lost my cool earlier with the Masuda method, but this is different because it's not the only thing I'm doing. I am also utilizing the Friend Safari in Pokemon X. For the uninitiated, the Friend Safari is Gen 6's take on the traditional Safari Zone area. Instead of being a large space with all Pokemon available, or some on rotation, it is a smaller instant zone that allows you to look for 3 specific Pokemon at a time. It is called the Friend Safari, as you can only enter it if you have friends. And I know what you're thinking. Alex, you don't have any friends. How could you possibly do this? Well, Mr. or Miss or non-binary title of your choosing, I have plenty of friends. On my 3DS. And I just so happen to have one with a Helioptile in it. But what is really special about the Friend Safari is that for whatever reason, it just increases your base shiny odds to 1 in 512. Which is coincidentally the same odds as the Masuda hunt. So I got into the Safari, prepped my Masuda hunt, and got to work. After only 67 encounters and 26 eggs, something happened. Come on, man. I mean, that was quick, but it's not the one I want. Yeah, of course I phased. Did you really think I wouldn't? Oh! Yeah, this took a minute. I average about one encounter every 25 seconds in the Friend Safari, so between the Galvantula and this was about 2 hours. But at least I didn't phase again. Back in Ultra Sun, we're taking on another SOS hunt for Mienfu. Remember how I said Ladybug has a call rate of 9 and that's about average? Yeah, Mienfu has a call rate of 6, so this is gonna take a minute. Additionally, Wild Mienfu in this game knows the move Jump Kick at this level. Now that move has a 95% accuracy rate, but if it misses, the Pokemon takes half its health in damage. This is something I did not realize when I started this hunt. While 95% is high, it isn't 100%. And if the original encounter, which I bring down to 1 HP to maximize the call rate, misses its Jump Kick attack, the chain will almost certainly break given how sparse the SOS Pokemon will appear. But wouldn't you know it, the unthinkable happened.
Oh man, that was so quick. I am not doing this again. It may say 47, but that took an hour to get to 47.
That's right, I got lucky. Not only did my original encounter never miss a Jump Kick, but it only took 16 encounters after getting to the max odds for the shiny to appear. Sticking with the 3DS games, we're going to look for Ducklet and Pokemon X, but we're going to be using what is probably one of the most undocumented methods there is to shiny hunt Pokemon, Pokeradar. That's right, Pokemon X and Y brought back the Pokeradar, and quite frankly, no one knows how to use it. The general idea of it in these games is that it more closely follows the rules of BDSP versus the Gen 4 games, but with one important wrench thrown in the mix. The amount of the grass shaking matters. There are 4 types of shaking grass with this method. Barely at all, a little bit, a normal amount, and an absolute rave going on. Your main goal is to keep entering patches with the same amount of grass shaking that you just went into. So generally speaking, you'll want to go into the rave grass as often as possible, as it's both easier to see and hear and therefore easier to keep track of. And if you come out of an encounter and the music has stopped, your chain broke. Sorry, I don't have any percentages with this. You just kind of have to do it until it works. And that's what I did. 10 times. I got close a couple of times, and that made it all the more devastating. And then this also happened, I guess.
I'm trying to set up another Ducklet chain, and that's just a full odds Krogunk. I don't know how that happens. I quit. I'm just finding this in Scarlet and Violet.
So that's what I did, only for fate to deal me another crucial blow.
That took all of 6 minutes. 6 whole minutes. No, please don't. I didn't save. No!
The hate I had for this dumb little duck Pokemon grew exponentially in this process for what it made me go through. And I decided it was not going to bully me into taking an easier path. I put myself back on the path of righteousness and started to try and chain it again. And when I say this took a really long time, it took a really, really, really long time. I started chaining again while marathoning the Harry Potter movies on New Year's Eve. The chain that I eventually got to 40 was started right after Harry's name pops out of the Goblet of Fire.
Harry, you put your name in the Goblet of Fire,
Dumbledore said calmly. And that chain didn't get to 40 until just after the Yule Ball due to an overabundance of caution. And then even after I got it to 40, the shiny did not appear until the first defense against the Dark Arts class in the Order of the Phoenix. But I showed that stupid duck who's boss.
I did it. Break out, maybe?
No way. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I just happened upon this random shiny Conkeldurr.
Let's rewind a bit. Obviously, I did not just happen upon a random shiny Conkeldurr. No. I took the inner workings of the game's code responsible for determining random number generation, and I bent it to my will. Yeah, I used RNG manipulation. A full explanation of how to do this would be a video in its own right, and I do plan to make that video in the future, so here are the highlights. In the Pokemon summary screen, if you click in the left stick, your Pokemon will either do a special attack or a physical attack. Here's my Gallade, for example. This is a special attack, and this is a physical attack. Why does this matter? Well, in Sword and Shield, the RNG seed upon which you manipulate the shiny RNG can be determined from documenting these attacks. 128 of them to be precise, as the RNG that affects shiny Pokemon is the same RNG that affects the type of attack you see. In order for this to work though, you'll need to know your trainer ID and your secret ID. And after 128 inputs, you have your initial seed. Then you find the Pokemon you're searching for. I'm specifically looking for a Conkeldurr in the Giant's Bed location, and then add the shiny filter to only show you those results. You then just need to advance the RNG to reach your goal. Each attack done by your Pokemon on the summary screen is one advancement. There are numerous ways to advance frames, but my personal favorite, if I need to go more than say 300 or so, is to enter the Dynamax layer and sit in front of Peonia. Every minute you sit here, about 2,700 frames pass. Then once I am close enough to my target, head back to the Giant's Bed, I advance the final few frames, exit the menu, walk forward to spawn the Conkeldurr, and bada boom, bada bing, shiny Conkeldurr has entered the ring. Coming down the home stretch, we're heading back to Violet for another Gen 8 starter, Scorbunny. There wasn't much to this one, other than the fact it took 3 shiny sandwiches for it to actually show up, even after knocking out 60 of them in the outbreak. On a side note, why didn't Game Freak make this an electric dual type? The whole point is that it's a soccer player, and what are soccer players? That's right, they're fast. And you know what else is fast? That's right, electric Pokemon. One more to go. Given how dangerous I now realize a Mienfoo SOS hunt is, I decided to go a different way to get the Mienshao. And I just wanted a quick, easy hunt to finish off this video. But for Mienshao, my options are pretty limited. I decided to go with the tried and true method of the Friend Safari again. Now I was decently under odds for Helioptile, and I was desperately hoping the same would happen, but did it? I don't even have to respond to that. Of course it didn't. Oh! Dang it! I just kept going and going, but nothing. Not even another Breloom or Sock Shot. As I creeped toward 1,000 encounters, I had to start debating the sunk cost fallacy with myself, and if I should continue this way. Eventually, I decided that if I didn't get it by 1,000 encounters, I'd risk it all for another SOS hunt. But I think the game was paying attention and wanted to inflict maximum anxiety on me. Oh! Oh! There it is! Oh!
$988 encounters. That Breloom was at like 260 something, so we went. Whew. Quite a long time. Did you know that this thing evolves to level 50? Me neither. Thankfully, I have another Friend Safari that has both Audino and Chansey in it, so I grinded in there until Mienfoo was ready to go. And with that, we're done. We have successfully caught every possible shiny Pokemon from this round of TCG pools. If you made it to the end of the video, I sincerely want to thank you for giving me a chance. I really hope you liked it. This is my first video, so I'm sure there's a bunch of kinks I still need to work out and improve my process going forward, but I just really enjoyed being able to use something I really like a lot in shiny hunting and channeling into something creative. It was a really fun experience, and I'm really excited to keep this series going in the future and whatever other videos come to mind. Once again, thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video. There are a handful of Pokemon that have either never been shiny, like Victini, or their shiny's just not frequently available, like Meltan.